Have you ever heard somebody say that porn has been around forever? Like since the beginning of human history? Well, they're probably right. Well, at least mostly. Because yes, porn has been around for a long while. I mean, just go back to ancient histories of Egypt, Greece, Europe, and China. And erotic images have been found in paintings, sculptures, dramatic arts, and wall etchings. There's no question that sexualized portrayals show up in the visual history of virtually all human societies. But when people say, hey, porn's been around forever, realize that they're not only making a historical statement, they're sharing their own judgment about whether porn is a problem in society today. A judgment that goes something like this: hey, chill out. It's not like porn's a new thing. Humans have been into it forever. So maybe it's time you just stop thinking that it's such a big deal. So in other words, if porn is really as universal as they're claiming it is, if it's always been this way, then, well, why are you and I even worried? The answer is because it hasn't always been this way, not even close. It's true that something called pornography or nude images have been around for a very long time. But to compare that with what we're experiencing today is like comparing a baby kitten to a saber-toothed tiger with lasers coming out of its eyes. Let's be honest. This all-access 24/7, round-the-clock, round-the-world, airbrushed, digitally enhanced, carefully produced, extreme and exaggerated real-time media spectacle that surrounds us right now is something that no generation has ever seen or experienced in human history. Never before. It's unprecedented. Can we at least be honest about that? I mean, think about it. If you want, you can literally have thousands of naked human bodies parading in front of you anytime you want, doing everything you could ever imagine. When in the history of the world has this ever been the case? Never. Even when images were created in the past, they were, until the invention of photography in 1839, mostly limited to single depictions or drawings or etchings by hand, and mostly among the elite or wealthy who had free time and money. When photographs arrived on the scene, although they could be copied, their distribution was still limited in the number of prints made or magazines created, not to mention the limited amount of money people had to purchase these. These same limitations of cost and copies applied to VHS tapes, which came along in 1971. Remember those big black cassette tapes? And then an invention came along that would change the course of history forever: the internet. In many ways, the internet has been one of the best things to happen to our society. But, as we all know, it hasn't all been good. When it first became available for normal people in the mid-1990s, it was a game changer. But you still had to access or purchase a bulky and expensive personal computer that wasn't portable. Yet, computers became smaller and smaller, more and more portable, until the smartphone was introduced at the beginning of the new millennium, basically a computer in your pocket. No longer were people limited to a finite number of copies, videos, or desktop computers. Although these technological developments have played a big role, they are definitely not the only factor creating a pornified culture today. At its most basic level, media and technology act only as a messenger, neither positive or negative by itself, and usable for many different reasons by people with many different motivations. For instance, how to decrease suffering and improve the world has motivated many people to creatively employ new advances in media and technology. These same advances, of course, have been leveraged by others all throughout history to make as much money as possible. As early as Pearl Tobacco's decision to put an erotic image on its package in 1871, businesses were discovering that sex can help their products get more attention. In 1910, a women's beauty bar called Woodbury's Facial Soap was almost taken off the shelves because nobody was buying it. In a final desperate attempt to increase sales, the company released an ad containing romantic images promising love and intimacy. Their sales shot up significantly, and they decided to keep the product on the shelves. In the history of print media, however, these examples were fairly infrequent and kept within certain parameters. Anything crossing a certain ethical line was largely met with disapproval and in most cases remained illegal. That slowly began shifting in the decades after the turn of the century, which saw Sigmund Freud famously arguing that suppressing any sexual desire was unhealthy. Then in 1948, Dr. Alfred Kinsey joined in, arguing that most all forms of sexual behavior were healthy, and that therefore people should pursue their sexual urges no matter how young or old a person was, or what type of behavior they were interested in. Taking advantage of this scientific aura of respectability, one businessman started a magazine in 1953 attempting to present pornography as something ordinary and even respectable by marketing itself as a men's lifestyle magazine, with renowned journalists writing articles on topics ranging from politics to sports and fashion, which appeared alongside pornographic images. By packaging these images as part of a gentleman's pursuit, porn became mass-produced for the first time. In that moment, the porn industry was born. What had been around in bits and pieces up to that point, mostly underground and mostly illegal, was now being sold as legal, freely available, mass-produced. Soon enough, other publications joined in, with today tens of thousands of companies over the years tapping into the insatiable public desire for more. Today, the combined porn industry makes an estimated $97 billion worldwide. A big part of those revenues, by the way, goes to shaping public conversation, our conversation about porn. That's why, despite the fact that hundreds of research studies have revealed alarming impacts on individuals' mental health and healthy relationships, the general public continues to hear convincing messages that porn is really not that harmful. That was the same essential tactic used by the tobacco industry to downplay the harms of smoking. In 1938, Dr. Raymond Pearl discovered that smoking tobacco could cause lung cancer. It took many decades for that truth to become widely accepted due to the effective and massive tobacco industry efforts to silence the truth. Today, there isn't anybody around who would claim that smoking tobacco is good for you. But as you can see, there's a lot more than science going on here. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry pouring money into shaping a particular kind of conversation. That's why even when science finally catches up with truth, it takes time for the public to catch up with that science. When you combine major advances in technology that have made pornography far more accessible than ever before, with major forces trying to convince us that it's no big deal, fine, even healthy, you've got a cultural moment that is quite new. The American writer Rod Dreher writes, "We are conducting a radical experiment that has never before in history been tried, because it has never been possible. What happens to individuals and societies when images of the most bizarre and violent sex acts imaginable can be instantly accessed by anyone, anywhere, at any time? What does that do to our brains, our minds, and our hearts? What does that do to us as a people?" It's time to stop pretending that we're facing something that all human societies have faced. This is different, and it's like nothing we've faced before. So, what are we going to do about it?